Hello. Here, today, when I'm filming this, it's actually Thursday. But I'm filming this for a Philosophy Sunday video. Tomorrow will be Friday, then we've got Saturday, and then we've got Sunday. For various reasons, I have fell behind with my video making. And so I'm sat here, I've just done 2 videos. I'm not even going to my studio because I haven't got the time to go over there, park up and get in and come back out. I've got up and I've got my little studio here in the corner of my room. You know, I've got a light on me here, try and make it look sort of okay-ish. You know, it's not very that professional, but that's the way it is. And so I can really get these videos done quick because I'm a bit behind schedule. I am. So I've just done a video. First video I filmed this morning was I got a lot of information on. I've done a lot of research for it. Got a lot of information. I went through the 10 drummers that play with Frank Zappa. I ranked them, and I really talked about the ones you don't talk about so much. And I enjoyed doing that. And there was some good information. Then I've done a sort of comedy video. I've just filmed that now, which was 10 bands that changed their style so girls would like them. And it was quite silly, but it went on for a long time. It did go on for a long time. I was going to get up and just do half-hour videos so I could get, because everyone moans about the videos being too long. But looking at the timeline, I know I've got to do one for Sunday as well. So I need to do a Philosophy Sunday video, and I need to start editing. And this is a really odd one here because I just sat here and I'd come up with an idea for Philosophy Sunday. I've then spent the last 2 hours doing these 2 videos, and now I've got to the point where I'm going to film the Philosophy Sunday video. I've forgotten what I was going to do. And so I've got nothing for you today. It's a blank canvas. And that's not always a bad thing, is it? A blank canvas. But it's a blank canvas. So we can do whatever we want. I say we, but I mean me. But you are involved in this, of course, because you're watching it. Now, some of you who are watching it might be going, who the hell's this bloke? How can he just stick his camera on without a clue of what he's going to say and start doing a video? I genuinely have not got a clue what I'm going to talk about in this video. I have not got a clue. I have not got a clue. I've said it 3 times now because I'm treading water, because I'm hoping some sort of inspiration comes my way beyond talking about the fact that I haven't got any idea to do for this video. And some of you might be going, this is terrible. I'm not watching this video, but you are watching it. I'll tell you why you're watching it. Because on YouTube, this never ever happens, does it? That is one of the sort of givens. That if you're going to go onto YouTube, especially if you've got sort of some subscribers, you know people are going to be watching, and they're going to be watching in their thousands. How would you have the gall to come on in this manner, Mr. Edwards? I'm now pretending to be you now. Mr. Edwards, how do you even have the gall to do this? I mean, isn't this just money for old rope? Do you expect us to sit and watch you and hang on every word? Just because you're talking when you haven't actually got a clue of what you've got about to say? When I watch a video, I want to have some information which is beyond what I know. I want to learn something. That's what I want. And I expect people to have done some research. Now, it's patently obvious with you doing videos like you do, like Henry Ford, on this process where you're banging stuff out. Go and look at Adam Neely. Even Rick Beato has done some research. He comes out with some interesting facts. You've got nothing, absolutely nothing. Why should I even watch you when you've got nothing? Why? I don't think this is right. This is money for old rope. And if this video gets like thousands of views, I will be thinking, what the hell's going on? How do you get away with such things? How do I get away with such things? How do I justify it? That would be a better question. How can you justify doing such a thing? You know, if you can't create videos at the rate you need to, then maybe you shouldn't be doing YouTubing at all. How about producing? I mean, you do have some good ideas, Mr. Edwards, but, you know, maybe you're spreading yourself too thin. Like that butter that Bilbo Baggins goes on about in Lord of the Rings that's spread across the bread. It's been spread too thin. You were once the Frodo Baggins of the YouTube world, music YouTube world, and now you're turning into the Bilbo Baggins, who has not got the depth of Frodo Baggins. I want Frodo, and I'm getting Bilbo, and I'm not happy with it. That's what I hear you're saying. I bet you're all saying that. You turned it into Bilbo Baggins, haven't you? We don't like Bilbo Baggins. He's shallow. Right, when he gets that ring off Gollum, he doesn't even know what he's got, does he? It's Frodo who has to sort it out, not Bilbo. He just walks around being a fool and goes off to, you know, where the elves live, and then goes off his, you know, all he's interested in, like fighting dragons. It's all a lot shallower. You're becoming shallow. And the analogy and the metaphor that we've just heard you describe for such a long time is just you backpedaling. You're up to nearly 6 minutes now. And what is this about? What is this video about? What gives you the right to come and do this? What's so special about Andy Edwards that he believes that him just saying anything is worth people listening to? Well, that's a bit depressing, that is. What gives me the right to do this? Don't know. Why do you do it? Don't know. Just happened. Why do people watch videos like this? The 20th century was about mass media. The 21st century is no longer about mass media. The 20th century was about the people on Mount Olympus talking to you through their vast network of channels. You would have your big TV studio, which would create this television that would go up to some big antenna that you could see for miles around. It would beam it out. It's almost like a Hollywood cliche, you know, when the news is being sent out to the world, isn't it? And you've got that tower and it's going beep, 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 and you can actually see the zigzags going out. And then the next thing is a shot of somebody in their house, and they got their ear against the radio, and then it cuts back to the newsreaders, and all the newsreaders, they're in all the different countries, aren't they? And the one bloke's going, and then it cuts the next one, and he's going, you're going to get done for racism doing that. And then it cuts to the British one, never straight off. The British one's always near the end. And today we found out that Andy Edwards has come onto YouTube making a video where he had not a clue or idea what he was doing. And this upset a certain section of the YouTube audience. But as he started to speak, he then started to talk about media and how it's changed, and how once we had people like me, British people that talked in a posh accent with a received English, talking into a big tower apparently with zigzags going out, and then everybody around the whole world would listen to me, and that they would just take what I said to be true. They wouldn't question it. And then things happened, and as the media expanded, what happened is everybody's looking at things, and they start to question it. Then COVID happens, and we realise that we're being manipulated. YouTube, everyone's sat at home watching it. I'll go back to my normal voice, can't keep that up, sound like bloody Harold Macmillan. And so, yes, the mass media's changed. And so there's a terrifying danger here, isn't there, with someone like me? I'm not Piers Morgan. I'm not like a sort of industrial YouTuber that's got the TV channel, it's got the accountants, it's got the lawyers. You know, these are the clever media people have gone, it's all happening on YouTube, we need to get onto YouTube, different thing. They've all jumped across, and they got the finances to back it up. You look at the amount of YouTubers that are multi-millionaires, and it's like, you can see they don't need to make any money. They don't need to make any money out of YouTube, and they go, what if I could be anything? You know, I know I've made my money selling all this dodgy Ponzi scheme that I've done, but now I've got it all stacked in the back. What shall I do? I mean, what's the best job you could possibly have? Rock star? Nah, they're rubbish. Film star? Nah, they're all rubbish, aren't they? Everyone hates them. They all have to be woke. You know, nobody watches them anymore, do they? No proper film stars. I want to be a YouTube star. That's easy then. What we'll do is we'll set it up and get some cameramen. Cameramen, get me some cameramen, some top-end cameras. You know, one of the many rooms I don't use, turn that into a TV studio. And I've got loads of famous friends, ring them up and get them all in. I'll pay them a load of money to come over, fly them over, stick them in a hotel. It's work for them. They've got no work. Let's bring them all in. I'm going to leech off them. I'm going to have a YouTube. Before you know it, they've got a million things going on. I'm not that. This is different. This is guerrilla YouTubing. I've got an iPhone here. It's on a stand that's boingy. See? Got a new stand and it's really good because I can clamp it anywhere, but it's boingy. And I like the fact it's boingy. I'll give it a sideways tap so you can see the sideways shake. Whoa! This is fun, isn't it? How do you stop doing that? We're all old and we don't like being wobbled around like that. I'm getting vertigo. I've got a problem with my middle ear. Right, so I've got an iPhone. I've got a light. I don't need the light. Get rid of the lights. Get rid of the lights. Come on. Let's just get right down to proper YouTubing. Right, let's just get down to some proper YouTubing. Let's just show you what YouTubing is about. Let me explain to you what's about, right? And this is composed too well. Let's move that back out a bit here so you can see a little bit, get a bit of the wobble going on. Now you can see the t-shirt. That's more like it. I'm just sat in the corner of one of my rooms in my house. You know, I've got some records behind me here. Let's pull a record out and see what we've got here going on. Wow, I didn't expect to pull out something like that. Theatre of Pain by Motley Crue. Right, is that a metaphor for what this is now? A theatre of pain. Look at him. Look at him on the back. Look at him. Vince Neil he's being haunted by hands. So this is proper YouTubing. I have worked hard. I put out thousands of videos. I've been right. So I'm going to tell you how to YouTube as the best that I know. Right. This is a foolproof way of YouTubing, right? It does not matter what you say or do on the YouTube. It does not matter what the quality is like. It needs to be quite clear. You need to be able to hear what I'm saying. But apart from that, that's all. You don't need anything else, right? What you do need to do is you need to do the same thing over and over again with only a small amount of wiggle room, all right? And so what you do is you set up your channel. You then, I would put, when you first set up, I would put on the big banner. I never knew this when I started out, but this one, I would have the name of the channel, the picture of you. It's very important that it's about a person. I don't like these YouTubers where you can't see them. We need to have the person because then you recognize them when they pop up, you know, and then you don't have to do thumbnails. You just got that person there. You put up on your banner that at 6 o'clock UK time, there will be a video. And then every day you put a video out, right? Every single day. Doesn't matter what it's on, right? You could just recite the limerick. You could call it the Daily Limerick. You can get a book of limericks and come on. And you could sit there and go, there was a young man from Devizes who had balls of 2 different sizes. One was so small it was nothing at all, but one was big and won prizes. You could come out and do that every single day. And eventually, some idiot will go, oh, that's quite funny, I quite like that, and they will click subscribe. And then they will put comments on it. And then you're going to engage with the comments. As long as you hold your position. My approach to YouTubing is the same as they use in Zulu, the film from 1963 with Michael Caine and Stanley Baker, when the small British army has to fight off the Zulus. And what they do is they hold their position. They're like, you know, aim, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, aim, 2. They're just like that. And all the Zulus are going, they're doing like that wonderful singing. When I was very young, one of my earliest memories is my dad bought this big reel-to-reel and he wanted to record the Zulu singing of Zulu. And it was on the TV, it was at night, and he got his microphone up against the telly and he'd switched it on, it was all going on. And me and my brother were trying not to laugh because we couldn't get our, but because we were little, like this, you know, and all the Zulus are going there. I can probably remember the song they were singing. No, I can't. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. The point is that the British Army, the way they fought the Zulus, the way they hold their position, that's what you do. You sit there, it might take a year, it might take 5 years, it might take 2 weeks. And you sit there and you put a video out every single day. And when one does a little bit better than anybody else, you gravitate to that. And you do more of that one. And then when another video does it, you gravitate to that. And you keep gravitating. Whatever they like, you study the things. And eventually, I promise you, something will start to happen. Right? But the antithesis of this is the fact that When you get in front of the camera and start to talk, right, are you interesting or not? Now, I don't think that's got much to do with what you say. I think it's got much to do with the way that you act. So I have an exaggerated personality that I have on YouTube that I am in at the moment. It's very exaggerated. Now, I didn't create that for YouTube. I as a younger man, was a very shy person. Very quiet. I talked in a voice like that all the time. People couldn't hear what I said. And I was very unsure of myself. And I was probably a nicer person for being like that. But then fate would have it that I started to teach the drums. Now that was one-to-one. So then I could just sit next to someone and go, yeah, so yeah, put your right foot on the bass drum and the left foot. And I could do that sat next to them. Yeah, now I'd do it a little bit more like that. And that works. But because I was doing a lot of that and I got good at that, I then got offered the job teaching. And when you're stood up in front of a class and you start to go, hello everybody, my name's Andy Edwards, I'm a music teacher, that ain't gonna work, right? And you lift it. And then you lift it in a way that you start to realize there's a way of standing up in front of people and talking to them where it will hold their attention. It's called sophistry, right? The media is full of sophistry. The media is full of people just talking to you and they're not saying anything. The greatest example of this is the DJ, right? I've been on many a radio show interviewed, and you go to the studio and you sit on and they get you all in, you know, and they're playing Bachman Turner Overdrive or something on the radio and they go, are you okay, Andy, we're going to be on in a little bit, and you put the headphones on. Right, I've done this so many times, and that DJ is there. They're a normal person, and then it starts up. They go, "Oh, so that was Bachman Turner Overdrive. I really love that. Ain't seen nothing yet." Well, you haven't seen nothing yet. Have you actually heard what's going on at the moment? People aren't seeing things. They're not seeing nothing. They're seeing things. Though it's not nothing. The Bachman Turner Overdrive, it's got a sort of meaning to it if you actually think about it. We've segued from that to this, and we're now going to go to things. And we have Andy Edwards in the studio right now, and he's going to be talking about not seeing things. Andy, have you ever not seen something? Yeah, many things I've not seen. Could you give us an example of what you've not seen? Oh, all sorts of things. I've not seen a kingfisher. You haven't seen a kingfisher? What, the British bird that lives on by the waterside that will glint and dive above the water? The kingfisher, the fisher of kings. Have you never seen one of those? No. Would you like to see one of those? Yes, I would. I would love to see one. But see, this was something I want to do. But this is the way I'm talking at the moment. I'm just talking nonsense. And I've sat there looking at these DJs thinking that's why they've got the job, because they could just talk about absolutely anything, right? Absolutely anything. I've got to plug my phone in now because it's running out of power, which I am going to do. I don't care. Come here. I mean, these too short. Oh, I'm really utilising the wobble on this one. Will that fit into there? I think we're sorted there. So, the ability to talk is important. Now, I think that the reason why we go to YouTube and watch people like me, low-level guerrilla YouTubers, is because you know that there are no rules. You know that I might say anything I want to say. You know, this hasn't gone through the filter of the mainstream media. I might actually say an opinion. This might be real, right? And my opinions might be a little bit woo. Some people watching it might get upset by it. That's quite interesting. So there's this tension here. Is Andy going to say something that is a little bit contentious? You know, I know the audience, they're like me. I know what I'm like. I know what, you know, and somehow it's like when Andy goes there, he's deliberately prodding the butt. I like when he does that, you know, even though I don't agree with it. Everyone says that on my channel. I don't always agree with you, Andy, but it's always quite funny. I know I'm pushing the buttons. I know how to push the buttons because I'm taking the mickey out of myself. So part of this is by taking the mickey out of myself and my own attitudes, you can evaluate yourselves. I know that's one of the things that's going on, but I, for some reason, do want to create videos that go beyond the limits of this genre, which is the guerrilla YouTubing talking heads, which they're all over the place, you know. And once I started doing this and I realised I was up against Barry, you know, or the Prog Corner, or Notes Review, or Sea of Tranquility, they're all out there, and there's ones trying to do it all. And I looked at them all and I thought, right, there's a format here. And with that format, I could do something that actually may have some deeper meaning. Now, I believe that I'm not clever enough to come up with the deeper meaning. Right? I believe that that's the case. But I believe that if you create the space in what you're creatively doing, and this is with absolutely everything, whether you're a poet, a writer, filmmaker, musician, whatever, you have to clear this space where something else can come in. And the only way you can let those things come in is by creating the possibility of chaos. So I became very aware that the ordered part of me wants to go, right, I'm going to do a video, and I'm going to do a video on the mini disc, right? So this would be a good video for me to do in an ordered way. So I would go and get my own old mini disc player out, perhaps. I'd get a few old mini discs out, I'd feel them and touch them and think about them. Think about what I liked about mini disc, what I didn't like about mini disc. I'd think about some personal events in my life. Then I'd get online and I'd read about mini discs. So I'm interested in mini discs because I'm that sort of nerdy type. So I would then have all this stuff, right? Now, I could get a pen and paper out like another YouTuber and go, right, introduction will be this. And I could put some bullet points and structure what I'm doing. I could do that. I could even start to write out little things that I want to hit within those bullet points. I actually could just write the whole thing out. I could stick it into ChatGPT and I could then just read it out here. And there's apps you can get so the text can be on your phone, so you can be talking like that and reading it. And the mini disc was invented in 1997, and you know, whatever. I don't know if that date's right. You'll be looking that up now. If I am right, that's pretty weird. And that's the thing, isn't it? Is that sometimes you can open yourself up to chaos. So the most my videos ever get to, the most organized they ever are, is the bullet points. And the bullet point for me is the top 10. I love the top 10 because I basically go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I look at that and I have an ascending ladder up to somewhere of quality or lack of quality that I can start to ascend. But then everything else is whatever's going to pop into my mind. Now, there's another aspect of this that I became aware of doing YouTubing. I was YouTubing one day, as I do, and I was filming something, and as I was chatting away, I looked down, and as I looked to the side, on the wall was the biggest spider I've ever seen. I'm not keen on spiders, don't like them much. I don't think many people do, especially us men. You know, some men like spiders, they're weird, but I don't like them, you see. And I looked at it and I went, oh, bloody hell, God, what the hell's that? Stopped the camera, went out, I got a mop because someone had shown me this method. You put the mop next to the spider will walk onto the mop. Once he's on the mop, he's a bit like, oh, I can't move on this. So you've got him trapped. I took him outside, I shook him off and he walked off, right? Came back in and I switched it back on. And then it just occurred to me, I was thinking, people get millions and millions of views for filming big spiders. I just filmed something real because my reaction was real. I forgot about the YouTubing because I looked at it and went, oh, what are we going to do? And what I should have done was turn around and go, oh, I can't believe it. There's this massive spider. And I should have kept it in. And once I dealt with the spider, whatever I was talking about, I then should have used my YouTubing skills. And this is the real skill. My YouTubing skills to think, I'm talking about this, but this has happened in the video. Now, the world is either chaos or it's ordered. And I've come to the conclusion that it's actually ordered. And that things are all ascending up. They're like that ordered bullet points. Everything's ascending to a great order, you know, at the top of it all. And it's really hard to describe this. Last night I was driving along with my daughter, and we were chatting, and she goes, "What's the point in all this?" And I was singing a song as we were driving along, and the song went like this. It went something like, what's this all about? Why are we here? Why are there trees? And why am I driving a car? I've suddenly appeared in the middle of this confusion and nobody knows what it means. I was making it rhyme and I was trying to make my daughter laugh because of this existential angst that she was experiencing. And so I was parodying the existential angst with a nice little song, a chirpy song that sort of outlined the fact that we don't know why we're here. We just dropped into this. We don't know what this is all about. There's those other people, they don't know what it's all about. You try go back into the past to see what they thought in the past, but they're all dead, but there's echoes of them in art and science. They seem to have done this, and we go along with that, and then we question that, and we toddle around like that, and then we die, and we don't know what happens when we die, and that is the terror of the situation. That's the situation we're in, right? On this video, I have let that chaos in. I've just opened the door to that chaos, so that chaos is here with us. That is where I've gone to very quick. I knew I'd go there, so I knew I've actually enjoyed not going there. But here we are with the terror of the situation. Nobody knows what else is going on. We don't know what this is about. We don't know why. Why is it even here? Wouldn't it be just much simpler just to have nothing? Couldn't we just have had nothing? But we don't. You can't envisage nothing, can you? That's like the sublime. Can you imagine? There is a something, and this is it. And so you can look at this something and think, well, I don't know much about it, but I'll tell you something about this something. There's a lot going on. I could just be a red circle floating around on a yellow background, you know. But no, we haven't got that. We've got cars and trees and litter, and we've got moisturiser and plugs and aftershave, and we got the wind blowing, and we got the blue skies, and we got the white clouds fluffingly going past, and you've got some bloke talking into his phone, trying to work out for the nth degree, and not realising he's never going to, the meaning of life, just because he didn't have an idea what to do on a Philosophy Sunday. He needs to keep the video churning out, because that's what you have to do, as he explained at the beginning of the video. But at the heart of it is this terror, isn't it? There's this terror at the heart of it. So why would you want to open yourself up to the terror? People don't. They want to have the bullet points. They want to be reading it off a script, you know, and people watching the videos go, I expect my YouTubers to have done some research. I expect there to be some order. Why would you ever want to let in chaos? Why would you want to let such a thing in? Well, because when I look around at the world around me, I don't know what it's about, but it's definitely about something. And I find that the more I realise it's about something, the more it becomes about something. It becomes even more about something. And this happens all the time. And the weird thing is, with my YouTube, when I realised I was going to have to create a video every day, and so out of necessity, I was forced to just come in here and talk. And I started to develop a way of exploring my ideas, and the key is to relax. When you're doing this, you sit back and you relax. You don't worry about what's going on. And when the big spider appears, which for me is fearful and represents chaos in its, the spider represents to me chaos more than anything ever. The web that the spider sits at the center of, pulling the strings of chaos, the strings that will pull us and pull us down and trap us. And before we know it, we're still alive, but some horrible beast is sucking the very juices out of us and keeping us just about alive, so we are fresh when he actually wants to, or she, worse, she actually wants to eat us and devour us. Don't like spiders. There's no way of making them nice. They got 8 eyes. They got really long legs. And if they were any bigger, they would take over the whole world and nobody could beat them, because they are the worst predator that's ever been created in the history of the universe. And that's the point. If you want to see a predator, look at the spider. Our world creates the spider. It creates the cloud. It creates the car. It creates all these things, right? What the universe is, and we don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it keeps ascending upwards, right? In a microscopic level, it's falling away all the time. There is entropy. But after the Big Bang, or whatever started the universe, or the lack of Big Bang, or whatever it was, why didn't everything just settle? You know, like when a child jumps into a puddle and then it all just settles. Are we in the settlement of that? Well, if we're in the settlement of it, all we see is the ascension up to something. And even the scientists, when they start to look at it, They realise there's more energy in the universe than we thought, or the things are moving away from each other and they're accelerating. Where's all this coming from? But it's as plain as the nose on your face. And your nose on your face is proof of it. Everything is ascending to a higher order. Everything is ascending to a higher order, which you could call objective quality. And art deals with an objective quality. And when you open yourself up to chaos, what actually steps in could be order. Right, so I'm going to explain it like this. George Lucas makes Star Wars. Episode 4, Episode 5, Episode 6. They're amazing. We all love them. He's laying the track as he goes. He's got no idea that Luke Skywalker's dad's Darth Vader. You can tell that when you watch Star Wars, it don't make sense. They added that on later. They're laying the track. They're opening themselves up to case. They're just laying the track. They're laying the track. They get this idea of the Force, Obi-Wan Kenobi. They get the idea of Yoda, that somehow Luke Skywalker's shadow is Darth Vader. It's about death. It's about rebirth. All these incredible things come in and they're so compelling. I've got a cinema channel, right? It's called The Magic Box. I have done a massive video on Star Wars and explored this in depth, right? But George Lucas did a lot of prep. He had a lot of bullet points. But the actual Star Wars story, which is almost like perfect, just happened. There's so much in it that resonates because it's beyond what George Lucas could have envisaged. He then looks back at it and he starts to see what it means. This is what artists do. What actually is the Force? Was the Force good or bad? How does it work? What drives people to become the shadow? It's fear, isn't it? It's fear that, and so those kids' films that he makes around about just after the 2000s, episode 1, 2 and 3, which are children's films, but at the same token, really nail the sort of spiritual meaning of Star Wars. That's where that emerges. The adults are grown up to have lived with that, and we know that Star Wars thing is in us. Then, right at the end, when it's all atrophying and meanings falling apart, and the whole idea, this postmodernism that has been really healthy for the arts, is now pulling the arts apart, and the mainstream media that we started with talking about is now trying to collapse. Disney trying to hold on to anything and trying to maintain their brand, buy Star Wars for vast amounts of money, sack off George Lucas, and they start about making these 3 sequels. So they're going to add to it. And the first one comes out. And the first one is like a rewrite of the original Star Wars, but with a girl instead of a boy. And when I came out of the cinema, I had quite a profound experience with that. Because I was sat there thinking, well, they've just done it again. They're so unsure of themselves. They can't do what George Lucas did and answer it like he did with episode 1, 2 and 3. Instead, what they've done is they've just rewrote Star Wars. They've got all the characters in. They're trying to push the buttons so that we feel, yeah, we're watching a Star Wars. So it's the same story again. But what they've done is they're doing that, but they're going to try and impinge their sort of identity politics things in there. But with the first film, it wasn't quite apparent that was happening. And I can remember driving home from the cinema and I thought, well, it's all so weird and it doesn't make sense. But the thing is, we're all adults watching this storyline. And so we're picking from it, and we're picking from it because we're comparing it to the original Star Wars. Go, well, that doesn't quite add up. Why does that happen? That doesn't add up with the original Star Wars. But of course, the original Star Wars was made like that. And it doesn't add up in itself. You could pick all the things where obviously Darth Vader is not Luke Skywalker's dad, right? In that film, you could see that. It's all right. I'm having so much going on in my head at the moment. This is what you do. I'm a person like you, but I'm in a funny situation at the moment because I'm making a YouTube video right now, and it's a Philosophy Sunday one, and so I'm trying to think and talk. And sometimes you have to pad like this to let that idea just form. And what's the idea that's forming? That's how Star Wars was written. Then George Lucas went back in and went, oh my God, there's actual meaning there. And that happened with the first sequel, episode 7. Because I had quite a profound moment, because I thought, what happens is the Force is trying to get an outcome which is positive. And so when you throw up the chaos, right, what the force does, it tries to enact, this is the good bit of the force, not the dark side. The good bit of the force is trying to enact good. It is a force for good. Star Wars is based upon a very simple idea. There is the actual force for bad and there is the actual force for good. And they exist together like yin and yang. And the reason why the story is so familiar is because the story is repeating itself. And the reason why the story is repeating itself is because this is how the force acts. Right? So what seems like counterintuitive, what seems like it doesn't make sense to you, is actually the force enabling good to happen, and is actually working with and against the dark side. And this tussle is perennial. It's mythic, like the perennial tussle of the gods, the pagan gods. And that's why it resonates. Now, of course, they then fulfilled a dialectic with those three films. I'm going to be talking about this on my film channel in depth. So to put it very simply, my theory is that one was a restatement of Star Wars. The next one was the anti-Star Wars, right? And then the last one was an attempt to synthesize the idea of Star Wars and the idea of woke Star Wars, if you want to think of it like that. And it couldn't be matched up, and they tried their best. And when you match those two things together, it is chaos. That is the elements of chaos. And I want to explore that on another video. But my point here is that I believe there is that force. I think the universe itself is an ascension to a higher order. All right? And I think that because everything is trying to achieve that, sometimes in life you have to open yourself up, because everything has a meaning. Now, this is what this video will be about. This is the Philosophy Sunday statement here that I'm about to make, that I've got to here. And this is something I've thought before, but I've arrived at it. So what I want to point out to you is we started with empty space. We started with chaos, and I've started the ball rolling. And certain things have happened in this video. We've run out of power. I've had to plug it in. You've seen me go right back to just the raw thing of what we do and explain how you think about where we've added up and where my talk has gone. Now, I am letting this talk happen in a structure. And then there's been a long talk about Star Wars. Now, I know the fact that I've had a nice big talk about Star Wars may make this video a bit more palatable for people of a certain age. They might have kept their attention going, well, Andy's talking, but we've actually gone into Star Wars now. Not what he normally talks about. I'm quite interested to know what he thinks about Star Wars. So I know that the callous side of me knows that that's pulled you in. But the aspect of Star Wars I'm trying to get across to you is this perennial story that's had so much power to people. I believe it's because the process that made it was so chaotic that the natural order, the chance that was out there, when you roll the dice, the chance is there for a reason. And that meaning that exists in absolutely everything around you is the tussle between random things that are happening and your reaction to them. So I know that the reason that if I see the big spider, what I should have done was incorporate that into the story or meaning of that video at that time. And that would have required me on the spot trying to work out what that is whilst delivering the video. And if I could do that, it will be compelling, because at the end of it you would go, God, that's mad. We were just in video, Andy was just talking about this quite mundane thing. Then this great spider appeared, and then he started talking about the spider, and it sort of made sense. Everything seemed to have a meaning and it made sense. How did he do that? It seems, I mean, actually, maybe they were all worked out, you know, and they're not. Obviously, they're not. What's going on is that the reason why things make sense is because we make sense of them. We are the agents in this chaos that makes sense of things. And the very fact that we don't understand it, but we try and make sense, for me, gives me the faith to believe that sense is there. because we make it. We make sense of the world. And so the world has sense because we made sense of it. The sense that we make is the sense that exists in the world. And it does exist in the world. Actual sense, actual meaning, actual order, actual reason to be exists in the world, right? It isn't found by us. It's not created by us, right? It is us. Our very existence should be the faith that this universe has a meaning. Does that make sense? And that is a very profound thing to understand. Now, here we are. I have now 40 minutes got to the sort of heavy message of this video that I wasn't in control of, but it's appeared. There it is in front of us. If we are making sense of the world, how do we know that? And what difference does it make? It could just all be chaos and we just fooled ourselves. Well, human beings, we are at one end of the telescope and at the other end, as I've said over and over again, we are subjects and objects, but we can only deal with the world in subjective terms or objective terms. If you go towards the subjective too far, you end up in that existential angst that I was taking the mickey of when I was singing that song to my daughter. If you go too far towards the objective, then you end up being like a fundamentalist religious person that cannot be told anything else, or the woke, because that's the problem with them. It's not the fact that they want to fix racism. We all want to do that. It's the way they want to do it. They want to do it with an objective morality, which can't be done. But you can't get that into their heads because they won't listen. So we are always dealing with subject and object. And allied to that is the idea of quantity and quality. And the idea of truth and falsehood. Science deals with truth. And truth really, the only way we can establish truth is through numbers, 0 and 1. The fact of something being or not being, the wave or the particle, the binary. We establish truth through the binary. And by applying the binary, we create a tertiary. The law of 3 creates truth. But we also we need to judge quality. And the way we judge quality is exactly the same thing. It is the idea of quality or the lack thereof of quality, which could be allied to sense or not sense, chaos or order. All right? So what I believe is that the way to describe those would be perfectionism and hedonism. It's the head and the heart. And when we bring those two together, we create a tertiary, and that is the law of 3 that governs aesthetics. Now we have 2 laws of 3, 2 triangles here. And those two are working with each other. Truth and beauty are working with each other. But they're often, most of the time, they're working against each other. Right? But when they work together, they create the sublime, and that is the great 3, the great Trinity, the great... I mean, I've been very influenced in this talk by Oppenheimer, which I watched the other night, and there's a lot I got from the film. He called that first bomb Trinity. And that was through, I think, Oppenheimer trying to bring together beauty and truth, science and art. He was interested in both, which made him a great scientist. Einstein was as well. And when they brought that all together, it creates that chain reaction. And that chain reaction is beautiful but terrifying. Beauty and terror. I really believe those are the 2 forces, really. Chaos and order, beauty and terror. That I knew if I opened up the space on this video, yet again, I would get here. I've done this a million times before. I have now done it again. Here we are. But I've gone here from a different route. When I started off, I didn't know what I was talking about. And now I feel focused. And if you look in my eyes, I can see my eyes there. And I can see in my eyes, I have got to something which I feel is solid. I feel that the world is a little bit, for me, a little bit more solid. There's that chance that I might be right. The chance that there is a meaning to the world. There just is. And I've started to elucidate it on this video. And the reason I have is not because I'm a prophet, because I'm not, but because I got the guts to let that space happen. And chaos did not fill that space. Order filled that space because I dealt with the space. Right? I confronted the space and I wasn't frightened of it. I wasn't nervous. I didn't go, where's my list? What can I talk about? Oh my God, I stuttered. I've got to start again. I didn't do that. I opened myself up to the forces of chaos. And I've been doing this over 1,000 videos. So I'm actually getting quite good at it. And so I now arrive where we started. What gives me the right to come on here and talk to you like this? And the answer is because I am like you. I am trying to make a sense of things. But one of the things that is different about me is that fate has created a space here where there is an audience. The audience have a certain expectation from me. And over the course of my life, I have been able not to become clever, not at all to become clever. What I have done is between beauty and terror, I've been able to look the terror of chaos in the eye and not be frightened of it in this situation. The great big spider that I wish had appeared in this video, but the sort of thought of that big spider in the past and the failure of me to stand up to it, not just stand up to the fear of it, but to stand up for it, that chaos entering into my video, something uncontrolled that I didn't foresee. Right? That requires a skill. It's not even bravery, it's skill. Bravery probably is skill. Skill is probably bravery. Skill is bravery. Yeah, that bloke that Alex Honda, whatever name, the bloke who climbed up that great big cliff that was 1,000 feet tall. The reason he could do it is because he went there with loads of ropes on and he did it over and over again and worked it out and then memorized every single grip all the way up. And then he knew it was just a matter of doing that simple task. But the trouble is that simple task, which is like me going, I'm going to take the top off this bottle. Now, Andy, I want you to put the top back on that bottle, but if you don't, you will die. I know I can do it, but that is bravery. I have the skill to do it, but it only becomes a skill when it's life and death. The other day, Jordan Peterson created a video and he's done something that he hasn't done for a long time. He's obviously offered a lot of money to do this, but he went on Jubilee and he sat in front of 20 atheists, is it? And the original title of the video was A Christian Takes on 20 Atheists or something like that. And we've had this format before, but they changed that. They changed it because some clever kid got up and started to ask whether he was a Christian or not, and he wouldn't answer it. And then he says, is this show called, A Christian and 20 Atheists? And there's no answer to that. So Jubilee changed the title to Jordan Peterson Takes on 20 Atheists. And Jordan Peterson has had a whole bunch of flack. He's had a whole bunch of flack for the way he answered those questions. I believe that is because he has gone from being one of the great adversarial interlocutors. I hope I said the right words. Basically, he was one of the great arguers, and he took on sort of the dogma. He didn't take on identity politics. He took on the dogma of identity politics, and he exposed the dogma of identity politics with his incredible arguments, and he became a multi-millionaire and famous all around the world for doing it. Then he goes on that sort of odyssey into drug addiction and all sorts of things. And he comes out of it, and I have noticed that he no longer wants to be that adversary in the argument. And so he is faced off in a situation that he should have never been in, because he is trying to fend off these discussions, but he's not actually fending them off. He is like a cancer holding up a mirror to what they're saying. And he's saying, what do you mean by believe? And for the great public, this is like a cop-out. But I was aware of the very thing that he is trying to explain to them, which is having faith in the sense that you find in the universe. To be able to step out of the subject-object, step out of your atheistic subjectivity, which is what it is, and your atheistic objectivity, and to stand into the middle and go, well, I find there's a sense in the world, so that's good enough for me. So what do you mean by believe? Do you believe in something's true, or do you believe that something's beautiful? We've all seen The Life of Pi. That's the thing that it makes. You have a choice. You have a choice to see the world as making sense or not. You could choose for it to make sense. Oh yeah, but it doesn't mean it does make sense. No, because you still haven't made the choice. To make the choice is to not think like that anymore. It's to have faith. And faith isn't believing in something that you think is untrue. Faith is stepping onto a bridge and having faith that the bridge won't collapse, and it will take you from one point to the next. And I could see that in Jordan Peterson's approach. And it was so esoteric. I thought, this has become so esoteric, what he's saying, that the exoteric people that are watching this do not understand it. Now, this could just be me apologising for it. But I have to be honest, I have got Star Wars and Jordan Peterson in this video. When I get the title right and I get the thumbnail right, this is going to get views. Jordan Peterson and Star Wars. I've just got to get the title right. I need a picture of me. Right, I'm going to do the thing now. Let's forget about the meaning of this. We're at the end of the video now. So I'm going to look quizzical and I'm going to use this bit in the thumbnail. Is that right? Or no, it should be. And then I'll have Jordan Peterson Star Wars. No. No. What's astonishment? There's your thumbnail. I'm creating the video now. That's what's important here. This is what we set out. I've got to make a video. I'm making a video. I've opened myself up to chaos. I don't care whether you've got any meaning out of it. I have just stumbled on a video where I'm going to talk about Star Wars and Jordan Peterson. And I'm going to put those together. It's literally like Oppenheimer's bloody atomic bomb. You know, you got that bit there. You push that together. You create critical density and bang. You think it's going to work? I'm just going to get the title right. I'm not going to attempt the title now. The Chaos of Jordan Peterson and Star Wars. It's got the word chaos in. It needs to invite somebody. They need to find out. It needs to be why something. Why, what, how. I'll get it. Don't worry. You've seen it anyway. I'm not going to, I need to give it some thought. It'd be nice if I could just nail it now at the end of the video though, wouldn't it? But then because what often happens when I come up with a title in the actual YouTube, give me a few hours later, suddenly something comes and it's better. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave that one off. That will come like me being George Lucas and looking back at the original Star Wars and going, oh, that makes sense. That's weird. Yeah. That must be that. Yeah, Darth Vader was frightened when he was, oh, that makes sense. I'll make that the whole meaning of these three films. So I hope I have been able to touch on something profound. Have I done it? What do you think? I'm quite pleased with this one. Every time I do this, it always comes out okay. That is the meaning of this one. Bye-bye, everybody.